Speaker, I would like to yield 3 minutes to my friend from Arizona, Mr. Crane.
The gentleman from Arizona is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to my colleague from Texas, Mr. Roy. I agree with your comment, Mr. Roy. This continuing resolution extends government funding at the same levels of the lame duck Biden-Pelosi omnibus. To be clear, this funding is going to continue funding Biden's disastrous policies, such as the Biden border crisis, Biden's war on American energy production, and a woke and weaponized bureaucracy. Our nation owes almost $34 trillion in debt and counting, and the interest the Treasury Department must pay is steadily marching higher and higher. Over the next decade, annual federal government deficits are projected to double to nearly $3 trillion, and the cost of our interest on the debt will exceed the Pentagon's budget within the next 10 years. Our Speaker, Mr. Johnson, said he was the most conservative Speaker we've ever had. And yet here we are, putting this bill on the floor this afternoon without conservative policy writers. Conservatives don't have the chance to amend it. We're honoring the McCarthy-Schumer side deals from the Fiscal Responsibility Act that led us to vacate Speaker McCarthy in the first place. Talk is cheap. The American people deserve better. The notion of fiscal discipline itself might as well be put in a time capsule. Congress considers no budgets, legislation never hits against cost limitations, and every bipartisan disagreement is solved simply by spending more on the pet programs of the opposing party. This continuing resolution is a perfect example of how we arrived at this unsustainable fiscal situation, and I urge my colleagues to oppose this legislation. The last thing I want to say is I think it's rich to hear some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle discussing the sovereignty of the Ukraine border and how necessary it is to protect their borders while we do nothing to protect our own. I reserve.